Hi everyone, I'm Karrie Evenson and welcome to Karrie on Canvas. Have you ever tried to make faces on your paintings but find yourself saying, that doesn't look real, or her face looks out of proportion? Well, if you do, then this show's for you today. Because guess what? You are not alone. We all say that. Everyone knows that I'm not a realistic painter. I couldn't be even if I had the technique to do so. It's just not me. It's not my style. So you wonder, how do I paint faces if they're not realistic? Well, sometimes I paint faces on my work, and sometimes I don't. Usually if I don't paint faces, it's because the piece tells a story enough with color, composition, and form. However, there are some pieces where face is appropriate and necessary in order for the painting to come together. So tonight we're going to play around with faces and see what we come up with. So just chill out, have fun, and put the small brushes away. Here's what you're going to need. Medium-sized canvas, medium to large paint brushes, assorted acrylic paint, paper towels or rags. Don't forget your water to keep your brushes clean. Oh, and you will also need an open mind, so don't cloud it up with judgment. Okay, so here I have my canvas. Of course, it's toned yellow, and I have kind of a sketched in portrait with pencil that I did. And just to kind of give you an idea of what we're going to do. And up here I have 4 different portraits I did, and I really did these in like 10 minutes maybe last night, just to kind of show you how quick and easy this can be if you don't put too much time into it. So what we're going to do is work on one of these portraits right now, and then you can kind of abstract it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So the first things first is cleaning my brush off, getting it wet. All right, and we're going to go ahead and start with just painting her face. That's going to be the first thing we do. So we have a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of white, and we're just going to start painting her face. So, talking about making faces and abstract faces, let me tell you, that was probably the hardest thing for me when I was learning about art and learning about painting, because I could draw faces very well and I could draw faces very realistic, but I had a hard time learning how to paint them. Well, there's very simple steps to making a face, and once you learn the basic steps, you can abstract it as much as you want to. So, kind of silly, but the shape of the head is like an egg, so you can see I have like an upside down egg here. And then the base of the neck comes from the lower part of the egg. So once you know those little things, you can abstract the shape of the head and the length of the neck as much as you want. And when you're trying to abstract any kind of piece at all, you know, a lot of people think, well, abstract is just, you know, you don't have to know the form, you don't have to know those things. Well, that's true, you don't have to, but it helps to. And so if you can learn the anatomy and study it and learn about the human anatomy and learn about the shape of the body, then it becomes a lot easier to abstract it. So we just have this painted in a little bit here. And so we'll start just by coming in and adding some light. So if I make my light come from this area, then obviously on the angle of the face we're going to have that. Now this face isn't too abstracted. You can see some of my samples up here. Some are, some aren't, and they're not really that abstract as far as in a Picasso style. Now, that's really more contour drawing and making your shapes of your face and the shapes of the eyes and nose more abstract. And you can do that as well. But I'm showing you my version. And you know, another thing too is you don't have to add, you don't have to make the skin tone a skin tone color. You can use different colors. You can use reds, pinks, blues, anything you want. That's another thing about abstract is once you know the basic, you know, foundation of creating a face or the anatomy, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. So let's see, let's go on with the hair. I have a little bit of black and I'm using a little bit of emerald green. Now, if your paint starts to get a little too thick, guys, or a little too dry, just take your squirt bottle of water, keep it handy, and just spray your acrylic paints, because really that's how you keep your paints fluid. And then, use a lot of water with your brushes as well. So we just have some base color here. Come back and change it up. So now, I'm just gonna take a little bit of my skin tone color that I had, make it a little bit darker, and just start adding the eyes. Now, let me tell you, a good way to do this is whenever you're doing a portrait, the face is at an angle, then you can divide it in half. So by doing that, you're gonna go from the top of the head down, and I'll draw a line here so you can see, to the bottom of the chin, just like that. And then you'll do the same thing across. So with that, that's where your eyes are gonna go, on this line. And your eyebrows. And then, of course, your nose comes down the center and a little bit off. And then you have your lips. So everything is pretty much centered. So once you know that, then abstracting it is a lot easier. Okay, so now that we have that, we will start adding in some light. And these little samples that I have up here are just made from like backing board that you can get for the back of your frames or mats, or you can use cardboard or poster board, so you can see it's just very simple. And then you can just draw on the back of it or the front of it and reuse them. Very cheap, very inexpensive, and a good way to practice without feeling like you're, breaking the bank with buying all kinds of canvases. Okay. I'm adding a little bit of a magenta to give her skin a little bit of a rose color in certain areas. And if you go over certain spots of the face and you end up kind of going what you call outside the lines, then remember, you can just wipe it off, or you can come back to it. So here we're just creating light and shadow. So you remember, like, the crease of your eye always has some shadow here. Then you have a little bit of shadow always under the nose and the chin. And now that you have that, then you can start adding in other colors. This is just one that we're working on. I'm going to show you another one here in a minute. Very simple. So now that you kind of get the base idea, a little bit of how to create a face, You can start adding in color. Let's do a little bit of magenta for her lips. So we're gonna add, now the V of the lip, which is your top part, your upper lip, the little V right here, that is where you're going to have it centered from your nose. You can see. Now we're gonna take some more dark burnt sienna, add a little more shadow in, using my finger to blend. Okay, and let's take a little bit more white. So the top of the nose here, this is where you're going to add a lot of light. You're going to get more light on this area than you will anywhere else on the face. Okay, let's take a little bit of the green and black color that we were using for her hair and just kind of add the features in. So this is where you can start abstracting things if you want, a little bit more than what I've done. And abstract just basically means, you know, things aren't as they seem. It's basically a expression of the artist. It's the way the artist sees it. And so if you decide you want her to have a 12-inch neck, or you know, a little tiny dinky nose, you can do that. It's really about what you're creating for yourself, your version of a face, your version of a portrait. Okay. So I'm gonna let the face dry just a little bit more here, and we're gonna come in with the background, and let me go over her hair a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with my bigger brush, and I'm going to create this kind of mauve tone to my piece. Might add a little bit more burnt sienna. Okay, and then we're just going to apply it now. To cover a lot, I just add a lot more water to my brush. So one key thing to remember is when you're painting portraits and you want to abstract them, is to make sure that you're not allowing yourself, or not thinking about making something realistic. Don't use photos. It's the worst thing to do when you're trying to abstract something. Do work from your own sketches. The best thing to do best advice I can give you is to get a sketch pad and just start drawing. And I mean, just draw in different ways. One thing that helps me keep things abstract is I draw with one continuous line. So you might try doing that where you never take your pencil off the sketch pad. You just keep drawing. And you will definitely have an abstract piece if you do that. Okay. So we're just adding in some color. And you can see it's very simple. I mean, I did this with just in a short amount of time. And you can always add more to it, you know. It doesn't necessarily have to be this kind of, to me, more realistic. It doesn't you can make it more abstract if you want. All right, I'm gonna go back to my smaller brush and I'm gonna start adding some more color. And this is where I start kind of working in a little bit faster because I get my base coat down and then I kind of already know, I'm like, oh, I know what I want. I know what I've got to do now. And then next thing you know, you're just working it in the painting. And that also helps, that's why it's really important to take time away from the actual focus of the painting, you know, work around the canvas and don't just sit there and work in one area, because you'll come back and you'll see areas that you want to develop more. She looks like she has a beard. Maybe she's supposed to have one. Okay. I'm going to do this really quick and shape her face a little bit better. So now that we have that, we can work on her lips. And we're going to add some white to create the light. And then I'm going to add a little bit of white. And here we go. Not too shabby for something doing something so quickly. So imagine if you had more time to work on it, how much more you could do to it. So we're going to put her aside and we're going to work on our next one. So she can go there and dry. Okay, so we have the same thing. I took pencil, not necessarily needing to use charcoal for a piece like this. So we're going to start off with the same thing. Get your skin tone ready. And just start painting in the face. And it's fairly simple. Brush it in. So now that you kind of get an idea, you can allow yourself to work a little bit faster, which is of course going to give you that freedom that you're looking for when you're painting an abstract piece. Okay. Now take a smaller brush. Actually, let's go back to the big one. And we're going to go ahead and paint in her hair. Get that out of the way. And I'm just basically recreating one of the pieces that I already have up here so you can see how I did it. Okay, and let's see, let's go ahead and take some blue and start working in that background. course, add some white. So it's a good thing too when you're kind of pressed for time that you have to work fast. So if you feel like that's an issue with you, that you take too much time on a piece, set a timer and allow yourself to do a painting in so many minutes and see what you come up with. All right. So now we're going to take our, again, darker flesh tone and go ahead and start with the face. So we know that the face is divided in half. So we're going to go ahead and start with our nose and our eyes. Let's come up a little bit higher. So now basically what that tells us is exactly where we want the face to go. And so now we'll start working in everything else. Go ahead and add her lips. And of course, let's add a little bit of purple, a little bit of white to our flesh tone and fill in her eyes. Then we're going to take some more flesh tone, and now we begin the shading part. Add some white. And I'm just working quick so that we can kind of see how long it really should take you to do something like this. And add some light to her face. And you use your finger to blend. It always works better than a brush. Okay, now we're going to take the black and we're going to add her eyes, her eyebrows. And add a little bit of, this part up. Add a little bit where the hair was because I went over. Okay, so now let's take this blue and start outlining her again. Take a bigger brush and add her shirt. Take some yellow. Okay, and quickly, if I have enough time, just want to show you that you can add a little bit of yellow even to the skin tone. Some white. And a little bit of the rose color. And then you'll start to see, as you start to create the shadows and things like that, things will start to come together. I'm going to try to cover up this blue right here. There we go. And you can kind of see that's a basic way to do it. I mean, really it's fairly simple. It's not something that I think we get nervous about it because it's so much to think about. We think we have to have this huge plan, but that's not the case. So I hope that you learned a little bit about painting faces tonight, and I hope that you realize that even though I've been painting a while, I make mistakes too. So when this happens for you, and it will happen because making mistakes is how we grow as artists, but when it happens, just get out the gesso and say forget about it and move on. It's not the end of the world. And I could tell you, if you go into an art museum and you look at some of the faces in the contemporary section, you won't feel so bad. Because after all, it's about the statement we are trying to make. It's about our point of view as artists. It's not for anyone else. So be brave, be bold, and paint away. And if you have any questions or comments, you know I would love to hear from you. So feel free to email me at soverykarrie@cox.net, or you can go to my website at karrieevensenart.com. Please join me again on Monday and Saturday evenings at 7:30 right here on Jones Television, Channel 22, or visit us at jonestv.org. I'm Karrie Evensen, and you've been watching Karrie on Canvas.